Welcome to the Sourcing Hero podcast, produced by Una, a group purchasing organization that empowers sourcing heroes, and Art of Procurement, the world's largest procurement podcast network. I'm your host, Kelly Barnard. The goal of the Sourcing Hero podcast is to capture the epic stories of people who are rising up and beating the odds to create exceptional value within procurement, directly from those heroes themselves. Today, my guest here on the Sourcing Hero podcast is Marissa Muzik. Marissa is the Director of Sales and Member Success at Una, the group purchasing organization that provides the Sourcing Hero with its home. This conversation is part of an ongoing series we're doing to get to know the different members of the Una team better, as well as to learn a little bit about the GPO model. So Marissa, thank you so much for being with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I talked about literally your current title and being part of the team at Una in my intro. But what else do you think it's interesting or important for people to know about your background?
Well, I actually just celebrated my 9th year at Una. So
congratulations. Is it like a grandfather clock for 10?
I know, right? We're
Gold
approaching
watch.
Sometimes I feel like it's already been 10 years, but in the best way. I've been part of the team for almost a decade now. And feel so thankful to be part of such a wonderful organization that is really doing so much good for a lot of different types of companies in a lot of different spaces. So I've done everything from customer service to member experience to sales. So I really have seen all the different aspects of our business, and which has gotten me into the role that I'm in today, Director of Sales and Member Experience, where I'm doing a little bit of everything.
I guess so.
But very happy to be here, still be here this long, and be along for the ride.
Now, you talked about, and it's interesting, you're doing a little bit of everything. Being both sales and also current member success, how much overlap or commonality is there between, winning over new members and bringing them into the Una family versus working with those companies that are already part of the organization and making sure that Una continues to meet their needs? How closely related are those two things?
Those are both extremely closely related, and our member experience and sales teams really do work cross-functionally for that reason. We try and keep a tight and seamless sales process from start to finish with all of our new members. And then once they're through with the initial sales process, they'll transition into our member experience team.
Okay.
And that is to make sure that we are upholding our promise of continuing to build savings, continuing to make sure that our distributors, our suppliers that we have contracts with are honoring the relationships that they have with our members, and providing what they need. We always say we're not a set it and forget it type of a company. We want to maintain that relationship, grow that relationship, continue to find you more savings if we didn't have specific contracts in our initial sales process, provide relevant information as it pertains to the market, kind of what is happening day to day, where we can provide some additional feedback and some additional consulting. The GPO model is, if you will, kind of straightforward in the way of it works the same for most of our supplier contracts, but I always like to say it is not one size fits all. It is a very consultative approach, especially at Una. And that's really also where our member experience team kind of steps in to make sure that we're continuing to build on that savings, not just keeping things baseline forever, and, allowing our members to grow with us for 10 plus years, which I've had the honor of seeing at Una for so long.
Now, when you think about that process of getting started, how do members make the decision? And I'm sure this is part of that customer success, that sort of consultative process that you've talked about. Mm-hmm. But how do members figure out either which current contracts or which categories of spend they should start with in terms of onboarding to Una?
That's a great question. So, we start all of our sales interactions with an initiation call, right? So I tend to start those calls with asking our potential member or the person that we're working with to explain their lay of the land. Tell me about your organization. Where are your purchasing from today? What does that look like? And what are your initiatives like for the year? How can we help with those? And then it becomes more of, again, that consultative approach where we say, all right, well, we know that we can help with these 3 categories, or we know that we have these 3 distributors right off the bat where we can provide initial value pretty quickly. And then we build from there, more so in a phased approach.
Okay.
because it's not realistic to be able to help in every single category automatically. That becomes very overwhelming. There's oftentimes a lot of different moving parts that come with it. So a lot of times members will come to us and they won't know where to start. And that's why they're utilizing Una. That's what our sales team does best, is provide, literally a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 over X amount of time. We'll lay out the steps. So we actually don't expect the members to come to us saying, this is what we need help with. Sometimes they do, and that's great. And a lot of times that means they have some sort of GPO background, or they worked with something similar before. But we love working with our members who allow us to kind of take the reins, make it as easy and as seamless for them, and then also, provide them the step-by-step along the way.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because you talked about sort of the phased approach. In order to get those benefits, there is going to be some change involved, and that can be hard for people no matter what the change is. Yeah. Is that part of what your customer success team is? It's certainly supporting, like understanding the value proposition and where Una can help them achieve their objectives, but then also there is that change management element that has to be addressed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very important conversation that we're normally having right off the bat, establishing that we're not going to be able to match every single supplier perfectly, but we probably have an alternative or a couple of different alternatives to select from, which is great because we can provide options. But again, there is a little bit of that hesitancy sometimes where that change feels a little bit scary. We see that a lot with our food distributors. We have 2 really wonderful food distributors that we work with in the space, and we often have people who are purchasing from local teams, or they're still purchasing from, a Sam's Club or a Costco, and like making that change to something a little bit larger and a little bit more streamlined. While it looks easy on paper, it feels scary kind of to go through the motions. Again, that's really what our team does best, is we have supplier relationships. We've been working with the same suppliers for, I can speak at almost 10 years now, where we've built an approach that includes the supplier along the way. So we're making those introductions. We're making it as easy as possible for our member to integrate with their new supplier if they wish to go that change management route. Of course, we never force it. It is not required. If you choose, this is just not for us right now, let's stick with these relationships where we know that we're already working with XYZ supplier. You guys have those on contract. We can still build those relationships there and provide that savings. But again, we really pride ourselves on having really, really great relationships with our suppliers, where that change management process becomes simpler, if you will, hopefully at the end of the day. So
what does that transition time roughly look like? So if somebody is changing from their own contract, even if it's potentially the same supplier, but they're moving on to the GPO contract, how long does that sort of a process typically take?
That's a great question. And honestly, it ranges. It depends on the project. It depends on the supplier that we're working with. I always like to say anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks generally is like a really solid time frame where we can get a lot done, sometimes even quicker. So overall, again, our goal is not to speed through the process, but again, speed to savings is something that we emphasize, because a lot of times it is easy for us to work with our suppliers, especially the ones that we know very well, get the information right off the bat and move things over. So, those change management projects tend to take a little bit longer. There's normally a little bit of additional implementation, maybe some technology implementation that needs to happen, some turnover of inventory with the organization that needs to happen before switching over to that new supplier. So there's a lot of different factors that can come into play, but generally that 4 to 6 week window is kind of our happy medium of what any average transition looks like.
Now, based on the transitions that you've helped companies make, are there pieces of advice that you would give around, absolutely do this list of things if you can, versus a list of things, okay, if you can avoid the following, it's really for everybody's, it's in everybody's best interest. Any advice around those transitions?
Yeah, I think that in Una's world, we really like to consolidate as best as we can across the suppliers that we know work really well. Sometimes, again, people are a little bit nervous to consolidate into a smaller number of suppliers or distributors to make sure that they have access to all the things that they need. Of course, we have such strong faith in our suppliers where we can say, like, we can strongly say that we can consolidate these 4 or 5 different places that you're purchasing into this one space. So we always want to go about it from a consolidative approach, so long as the business, the organization, whoever we're working with is open to that. That is normally my biggest piece of advice, because it really does make the procurement process as a whole for the organization much easier. It's going to make the savings grow a lot faster. It just makes, operations overall work more seamlessly, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So that would be like my biggest piece of advice when I go into these types of projects, especially when they're a little bit larger. We're working with quite a bit of volume. So that's probably my largest piece of advice for any member that I work with.
Now, if I had to guess, if there was one question you hear more than any of the others, it has to do with sort of like the not fee-based way that Una works.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're dealing with the procurement psyche. We're very much schooled in the whole, like, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Where am I paying for this?
Uh-huh.
How do you answer those questions from procurement professionals who are thinking like, yeah, fee free. Okay, where's the hidden trick here? How do you address that question when it comes up?
That's a really great question too. And I get this on almost every single one of my intro calls. And at Una, we are very open and honest about what the process looks like. So, it is a free-based GPO model that is by design. The way that it works essentially is that the savings is embedded into the pricing. We're not working off of discount codes or, rebates down the line to make sure that savings is being honored. Now, a lot of our contracts have additional incentives in the form of rebates, but that is in addition to what that baseline savings looks like. The way that it works essentially is that Una is paid a very small fee on the back end on total volume. So we're working on very small margins here. We quite literally have thousands of members who are accessing our contracts. It is a volume play, right? So we are working across a huge supplier catalog, a whole bunch of different classes of trade of different types of members who are accessing all of our different types of contracts and putting volume into the system to get better pricing, to continue to build upon that better pricing. And that's how we're able to offer it at a free rate to all of our members.
Are there any other frequent questions or even potentially common misconceptions that you hear from people when you're having those new conversations with maybe a team that hasn't worked with a GPO before?
Yeah, common misconceptions, I would say, is that people are worried often that they're getting bound to the GPO, or we always say, again, off the bat, you are not bound to anything. You're never going to be signing anything with Una directly that binds you to us for a specific period of time, unless we're talking about more strategic partnerships, which we definitely do have. But that doesn't make sense for every type of member. Our average member is not bound to Una. We're a non-exclusive GPO as well, right? We know and we honor the fact that we cannot help in every single category of your organization spend. I would venture to say that any GPO who tells you that might not be being totally honest with you. So we will be always honest about where we can really help and where we can provide value up front, and then allow you to do your own research and reach out to other organizations or GPOs that are specific for maybe technology or in the MROs, or I'm just spitting out random names, but
Sure.
I think that that's really important and something that we get asked about a lot. People tend to hesitate if they're going to be bound, especially when it revolves around procurement, because sometimes you do need options, and sometimes the value that we're able to show baseline might not be enough for you to get you across the finish line in one category, but it is for another category. And then maybe there's another option out there for you. So non-exclusivity is something that is important to us, because we want your organization to thrive, and we won't always have the best pricing, or we won't have a contract that is beneficial for your organization every single time.
Now, if we have somebody that's listening in today that has never worked with a GPO, maybe they're totally new to the idea, what would be something that you would want them to go away thinking about, just in terms of, what kind of an opportunity might this present for me, or which of my challenges might this help me to address? What's something that we want to sort of embed in everybody's thoughts as we start to wind down the conversation?
Yeah, I think something that's important for people to remember is that, our goal is to provide value, right? Overall, no matter how that comes, whether that is to just provide you advice on other directions to go, or to actually provide you that phased approach and really get in the nitty gritty and because we have the options available. And then again, to make sure that we're continuing to grow that relationship and you're with Una for the long haul on the contracts and the areas that we are able to help in. I think that is what has brought Una so much success in the past. And really the feedback that we get from our members is that they appreciate our quote unquote hand holding, right? It's important to us. It's really what sets us apart. And, the procurement space can be complicated and it can be a little bit overstimulating because there's an abundance of options always on where to purchase and what to purchase and why are we purchasing or doing things one way or the other. Allowing GPOs, procurement professionals like us, to help provide feedback, whether you take it or not, I think is really a great place to begin, because I've seen it time and time again really, really help organizations. We've provided so much value to, like I said, thousands of organizations, and it's something I'm super proud of and look forward to Una continuing to do going forward.
Absolutely. Now, I can't let you go without bringing you in on the tradition. So this goes way, way back, but this is your first time going through it. So here's what we're going to do. And our listeners are already very well aware of this. This is our tradition every episode. I'm going to give you 2 questions, Marissa. You can pick either one, and there are no wrong answers. So here are your choices. Either, what does the idea of a sourcing hero mean to you? Or if you'd like to come at it a little bit more broadly, what do you think heroism looks like in a business context?
I'll go at it with the second piece of it. What I think heroism looks like in a business context. I think it's, bringing somebody into the fold who truly cares about what the organization is trying to do. Number one, like having that value match, I think is so important. And it comes through when we're talking to members, those people who really care about bringing savings and bringing value to their own organization. It comes through so quickly when we're speaking with our members, and it's something that we're passionate about too. So it really gets us excited. I think that every great project starts from there, right? Again, whether we're able to provide all of the options or all of the solutions or not, just feeding off of the vibe of like truly just wanting your organization to thrive and us also wanting the same thing is what I think every true procurement hero begins with in our world. And I think that is, that could be the same for any department that you work in, any position that you're in over the course of your professional career. So just having that value match with your organization and truly caring as opposed to just checking a box, I think is where heroism in the business world really begins.
I totally agree with you. And I do think so many cases, we can look at KPIs, we can look at business objectives, but in so many cases, why you do something is even more important than exactly what you do or how you do it. I think that motivation has a way of transforming not just how people approach challenges, but that at the end of the day, the outcomes that they're able to generate from it. Marissa, I'm so glad that I was able to have you join the show. If people are meeting you for the first time, or if they would like to learn more about Una, where would you recommend that they go to connect or to read up?
Well, they can go to our website. Our website is full of lots of marketing material, lots of information about our supplier catalog. There's also a number of different types of contact forms there. So you can reach either myself or anybody at Una through our website, una.com. Myself, you can find me on LinkedIn, Marissa Muzik. And then my email is marissa@una.com. Marissa spelled Marissa. So pretty easy, simple, to the point. And look forward to connecting with many more members going forward.
Excellent. Marissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast. Join us again next time for more true stories of sourcing and business heroism performed by your colleagues and peers. Look for the Sourcing Hero wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe. Finally, don't forget, sourcing heroism is taking place all around us every day. Keep your eyes open and you're bound to see it. Until next time, I'm your host, Kelly Barner. Stay well, and always remember that you can be a hero too.